A man was never satisfied. He complained about his job, his small house, and even the food his wife cooked. Why is life so unfair to me? He grumbled daily, wishing for more. One night, he dreamed he was in a grand mansion, surrounded by luxury, a gleaming sports car, and a feast before him. "This is the life I deserve," he said. As he reached for the food, a black figure appeared. "I can make this real," he said, "but there's a cost. Your family, your memories, your old life will go away." The man froze. Before he could answer, the scene shifted. He found himself in a strange, empty world. No mansion, no family, just silence. Days passed, then weeks. Hunger gnawed at him. Loneliness became unbearable. Suddenly, he heard laughter. He turned to see his wife and children, smiling and waving. "Wait, come back," he shouted, but they disappeared. He woke up gasping, his wife beside him, his kids running around. For the first time, he felt grateful. From that day, he stopped complaining. He learned the life he had was the one he truly needed. Drop a heart if you love your family and subscribe. This preacher was known for his sermons on forgiveness and mercy. He often told his congregation, no matter what they do to you, forgive and let go. Love one another as God loves you. People admired him for his wisdom and the compassion he preached. One tragic day, his faith was put to the ultimate test. His only son was in an elevator at school when a malfunction caused it to crash. The boy didn't survive. On hearing the news, his wife rushed to the school in a panic. On the way, a driver ran a red light and hit her car. She too was gone. In one day, the preacher lost everything he held dear. Devastated, he found himself consumed by the very emotions he had counseled others to let go of. Rage, bitterness, and pain overtook him. Unable to forgive, he sued the school for negligence, but his anger wasn't satisfied. He had said he wasn't going to press charges, but one evening, he confronted the drunk driver who had killed his wife and pulled the trigger. The man who once preached mercy was now at the mercy of his own grief. It's easy to preach forgiveness when the pain isn't yours to bear. Share this with a friend and subscribe if you agree. This woman had been away on a business trip, and her husband promised to pick her up from the airport. But hours passed, and he didn't show up. Frustrated, she called his phone, but it went straight to voicemail. She texted, no response. She was furious. She called friends and relatives, venting, "I told you he's cheating on me. He even left me stranded at the airport. I'm done with this marriage." Unable to wait any longer, she took a taxi home. When she arrived, the house was quiet, but what she saw took her unawares. The living room was decorated. A beautiful meal was set on the table, and there was a card that read, "Welcome home, love," yet her husband was nowhere to be found. Just then, her phone rang. She missed the call, but a voicemail came through. A calm but serious voice said, "This is the hospital. Your husband was brought in unconscious. He suffered an asthma attack while rushing to the airport." Her anger turned to guilt as she stared at the inhaler on the table. Sometimes, what looks like betrayal is just a misunderstanding. Don't be too quick to judge when you don't know the full story. And if you agree, comment yes. It was the day after Christmas, and the young couple were quarreling again. Their yelling echoed through the neighborhood. Most people had learned to ignore it, but the older woman next door couldn't. She grabbed a small hamper, walked over, and knocked on their door. The shouting stopped. Confused, they opened the door. She smiled warmly. "I thought I heard some celebrating and wanted to join in your joy." They hesitated but let her in. Neither wanted to admit they'd been fighting, so they awkwardly offered her a seat. She said, "I lost my husband 30 years ago. We argued all the time over dishes, bills, little things. I thought we had all the time in the world. Now, every Christmas, I sit alone, wishing I'd spent more time laughing with him instead of fighting." The couple exchanged glances, guilt settling in. Suddenly, she jumped up. "Oh, no! My chicken's in the grill. Mark would kill me for that if he were still here." She laughed and hurried out, leaving them silent. Her words stayed with them. That day, they realized the value of their time together, and the quarreling stopped. Share this with someone to encourage them. A young man grew up in poverty, constantly bullied by his wealthy classmates. They mocked his torn clothes and lunchless days, but instead of breaking him, their words fueled his determination. He worked hard, earned top grades, and eventually built a successful life. Years later, he went to pick up his son from school and noticed a commotion. To his shock, it was his child bullying another boy. The child cried as the young man's son taunted him. The man pulled his son aside. "Why are you doing this?" he asked sternly. The boy shrugged. "He's weak. It's just for fun." The man knelt to his son's eye level. "Let me tell you something, I was like that boy once. People bullied me because we had nothing. Do you know why I worked so hard? Not to pay back those who hurt me, but to make sure my children would never feel that pain. What you're doing is wrong. We don't repay evil with evil." He then made his son apologize to the boy in front of everyone. That day, the young man taught his son that true success isn't just rising above others, it's lifting them up too.